we are going to be talking about the Mamta Kafle case, the new charges against Naresh Bhatt. He has been charged with murder and defiling a dead body. Something on my phone that's making it look like I have a mole on my face. And yeah, so we had the hearing. A lot. I mean, it wasn't very interesting in terms of like evidence or anything like that, but our timeline has changed. Good morning. So I'm going to wait just a second to let people join. I wonder, hold on. While I'm doing that, I want to see, because like sometimes they let you write things on the screen. I wonder if I can like write like FAQs. I don't know. Hold on. Comment about me, content disclosure. Let's see. I don't want to do a poll. What's a lightning Q&A? Oh, I don't want to do that. Lumeri Ramos? Helen? Is that who you're talking about? Because I do know Lumeri. We played roller derby together for years. I actually saw her not too long ago. Okay, yes. Latest news. I was just waiting for some people to come, but we can get into it. All right, so I have posted a couple of videos about what has been going on over the last couple of days. Thank you for the roses, Dolly. I appreciate that. Naresh Bhatt was indicted for murder, first-degree murder, on December 2nd. He was also indicted on the charge of defiling a dead body. And that, so first-degree murder is first-degree murder. I mean, that's the highest charge you can get. Defiling a dead body is another Class 6 felony, just like the hiding of a corpse, which is what he was initially charged with. So today we have, okay. So all of this is good news in terms of justice for Malta. Thank you, Mandy. Ooh, I achieved a live goal. I don't know what that was, but thank you so much. So Amal is asking, did he accept it? That's actually an interesting question. He didn't really have a choice. So this is not a plea deal. Nobody has been offering him a plea deal yet. This is just saying, we are going to take you to trial for murder. Hold on. I told her Lumeri wanted to have coffee with you. I've been following this case since day one. Like Lumeri Ramos, right? All right. Oh gosh, my stand is going to fall. See, I told you this is like barely holding on. Okay. All right, so what happened is the trial for concealing a dead body that was supposed to start on December 9th is not happening. Unfortunately, we are not going to trial on December 9th. Instead, what happened today, this whole hearing, was because they asked for a joint continuance. Oh, Helen, tell her I said hi. They asked for a joint continuance, meaning both the prosecution and defense do not want to have that trial on December 9th because of these new charges. Liv, hey! Because of these new charges, they are going to combine all three charges and do one trial. This trial is not going to be until September 2025. So that's the biggest news, is that we are not getting a trial until September 2025. They actually set the dates of the trial. It is going to be September 8th through October 3rd. It'll be a 16-day trial. That is what they're asking for. Sorry, I need my water. Now, the original trial was a 6-day trial. So they went from a 6-day trial to a 16-day trial because now we have 3 charges, including first-degree murder. So Virginia has abolished the death penalty back in 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. So he is facing now life in prison. That is the maximum sentence. He's also facing up to 5 years in the additional charges, which are the class 6 felonies. So he is facing the rest of his life in jail. He might never walk out of the jail or the courtroom a free man again. That's very much a possibility. So as Chief Lugo said, thank you. As Chief Lugo said in his press conference the other night, Mamta's body has not been recovered. They have been searching. They have been unable to locate it. Now, if you saw the video I did yesterday, somebody left a really good comment saying, because Lugo also said that they had searched in Page County, and I don't even know where Page County is, to be quite honest, and I didn't know what the connection was to this case. Apparently, a lot of trash in Northern Virginia ends up in Page County, so it would stand to reason, based on what it seems that the prosecution's theory of the case is, that is why they were looking in that location for Mamta. So yes, so I think somebody, Luray. I didn't realize that was Page County. Okay, now I know where it is. Ashley, thank you. So yeah, that's a huge landfill. Okay, so a couple other, yes, everyone is asking if he confessed. Thank you. I'm glad that you asked that, because that was the next thing I'm getting to. Because other people have been saying things like, okay, well, now he needs to be interrogated. Now the police need to talk to him. Now he needs to confess. The interrogation is not going to happen. Listen, the Manassas Park Police have done a pretty good job on this case, but not in the first days of it. They really dropped the ball in several different ways, one of which is they never brought Naresh into the station to question him. That simply just didn't happen. They visited his home a few times, questioned him, casually, but they never brought him into the station. And so as soon as they arrested him, he got a lawyer, and any lawyer is going to tell him, you're done talking to the cops. You are not saying anything to any police officer. So they really, truly missed that opportunity for an interrogation. If we are going to get a confession, I think the only way we would see that is if he is offered and accepts a plea deal. Because typically when you have a plea deal in a case like this, especially when it's a no-body homicide, a stipulation of that plea deal is you need to give a full confession and tell us what you did with the body. So that is the only way I see a confession happening. And I also don't want you to get your hopes up too much when it comes to a confession, because typically in situations like that, when you do get a confession, it's as self-serving as possible, and it's never really the full truth. It's, saying as much as he can say to honor the arrangement of the plea deal, while still making himself look as not guilty as possible. I mean, a lot of times, he's the victim, blah, 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 blah. So I wouldn't expect anything, honestly, very, illuminating from that, let's say. Again, he's never going to tell us where the body went or what he did with it. If the prosecution is correct, they believe that he killed Mamta, he dismembered her body, and this was all in his home, and then dumped her in several different dumpsters, meaning that parts of her ended up in several different locations. So the logistics of finding her are difficult. So even if he says, yes, that is what I did, that doesn't mean, unfortunately, that she will be found. And it's terrible to talk about. Okay, so was Naresh there today? Yes, and that is actually another big thing to talk about, and that's what I took a lot of notes on, because today was different from the other hearings in which we've seen Naresh. Somebody else is asking how was his demeanor in court? Different. So he walked in, and he was coming from this, so I was sitting on the opposite end of the courtroom in the second row. And he came in and he looked out at the gallery for the very first time. I've never noticed him looking at anybody in the gallery on any of his previous court appearances. This time he looked out at everybody, and it was full. It was full with everybody who's been showing up since the beginning. So there are a lot of people supporting Mamta. I don't know if there was a single person there supporting him. Oh, Sarah, you were there. Yes, he was definitely looking all around today. It was very different. So this is what I've got. He looked out at the gallery. Now, what today was, this hearing was already on the books. This was technically supposed to be the pre-trial hearing. Oh, Dawa, I'm going to get to video later. So there was no video today, but we're going to talk about video later. So technically today was supposed to be the pre-trial hearing for the case that was supposed to start on the 9th, concealing a dead body. So this was already on the books. They already had the interpreter. But instead what happened was the joint continuance request that I talked about earlier. Ooh, thank you. And that was the joint continuance request to not have the trial in December and have a trial for all 3 charges beginning on September 8th, 2025. And again, they asked for a 16-day trial, whereas this one was supposed to be 6 days. And Judge Irving said to Naresh, because, she has to explain everything that's going on to the defendant. And she said, okay, Mr. Bhatt, today you are being charged with homicide. And he shook his head like this, just like shook his head. And so they had to stop, because if he didn't understand what his charges were, then that's an issue and they have to pause the proceedings. So he shook his head. They paused the proceedings. His lawyer, Mr. Ben Alverham, spoke to him, and Naresh put his head in his hands like this, with his elbows on the table, and just went like that. So this is clearly hitting him harder than the initial charge did. Like his behavior was very different from guys. His behavior was very different from every other hearing that he's had. I think the full weight of what's happening is finally hitting him. So then also when he put his hands in his head like this, he looked over to the prosecution and looked at, Sarah Sammy and Matthew Sweet. So the judge said that, if you recall, Virginia law is that once you're indicted on a felony, the speedy trial rule goes into effect. He was indicted on December 7th. That means that if they follow the speedy trial rule, they would have to go on trial 5 months from the indictment, which would have been May 2nd. However, the defense and the prosecution jointly wanted more time to prepare. So then Judge Irving had to, it fell. That's a good catch though. So Judge Irving then said she said, okay, do you understand that you could go on trial on May 2nd or earlier, and that by agreeing to this joint continuance, you are waiving your right to a speedy trial? So then they had to explain that to him, and he eventually did say yes. So Naresh is waiving his right to a speedy trial, giving his defense more time to prepare, and leaving the trial to begin on September 8th, 2025. Okay, so the They then scheduled a pretrial conference for August 27th. So that was basically like the hearing we had today was a pretrial conference for the hearing that was supposed to be on the 9th. So like the next version of that will be August 27th. Okay, remember how I said we were going to talk about video? This is where things got interesting. There's another issue that was unrelated to this new indictment, perhaps, or these charges. Judge Irving said that they had received a letter from Court TV. Court TV wants to film the trial. So the defense is very much against this. They do not want this trial to be televised. So basically, Judge Irving said that she is going to respond to the letter that Court TV sent and say, hey, the trial that was supposed to start on the 9th is not happening, but I have let both sides know that you wish to schedule. What's going to happen is there is a Virginia statute, I haven't had a chance to read it yet, regarding televised trials. So they are going to have a hearing regarding this. The defense does not want the trial, pardon me, the defense does not want the trial televised. Prosecution didn't say anything either way. So there is going to be a hearing. The date has yet to be set, probably sometime February, March, on whether or not they are going to allow court cameras into this trial. Now, one thing that I did not realize until recently is that the whole reason that Prince William County trials are typically not televised is basically a couple of reasons. One is that, like, you know, they don't often make national news, but a big reason is because the Lorena Bobbitt trial was in Prince William County, which I did not realize. I was a kid when that happened. I did not realize it was Prince William County until somebody pointed it out recently. And Court TV was here for that. That was a media circus. It was televised, and I guess the judge who was on that trial was like, I am never, or maybe it was the clerk of the court. It was somebody, you know, high up in the court here who was like, I'm never doing that again. And so I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe that is the last time a trial was televised in this county. But Court TV is back. They want to televise it again. So there's a chance that we could get this entire thing televised, which I think would be really good. So the judge told him he's accused of homicide. He started looking down and shaking his head. That is, God bless it. I do not have a good stand in this car, you guys. Oh, that was scary. All right, hold on. Okay. Yes, Ben Alverham said no. I mean, it's not, you know, they have to have a hearing, but yeah, he is against it. So he will be arguing against this televising the trial. Netflix documentary next. You know, I am kind of bummed. So like, I was going to do entire podcast like series on the trial, which I'm still going to do. Obviously, I was planning on doing it in December, but now I'm going to do it, I guess, next fall. So I will be covering the trial, and then I'll be doing podcast episodes on the trial. So yes, so that's kind of in. Yes, I agree. It will eventually be a Netflix doc. It's definitely going to be on Dateline. I can tell you that much. I'm surprised I haven't seen anybody from there yet. But I think once we get to the trial, I think that's when we will see national media. So the local reporters are here. Like, you know, I see the same people from like USA 9 and WTOP and, you know, all of the local affiliates here. And share with Prince William Times. But I haven't seen anyone national yet. But I think they're going to come. Okay, what about DNA reports? Simran is asking. They have the DNA report. The DNA belonged to Mamta. All of that blood that they found in the bedroom and the bathroom belonged to Mamta. And that is why the prosecution decided to charge him with homicide and defiling a body. That is where those charges came from. They did not come from Naresh confessing. They did not come from them finding Mamta's So that's where we are. The judge, Naresh asked his attorney a question. I don't know what the question was. They did schedule a status hearing on March 20th at 9 a.m. So as of this moment, that's the next hearing that's scheduled. There's a chance we won't be in court until March 20th, but just based on how this case has gone, I doubt that. What we did learn is that the discovery in this trial is going to be due on February 18th. And so we might not have any hearings before that, because Naresh's attorney said, hey, the Commonwealth is supposed to give me the discovery by February 18th. So I don't foresee us having any more hearings until I can review that, because there's just nothing really to talk about until he has the evidence, right? So there is a chance we might not be in court for the next 2 months. Then the judge told Naresh to be sure to stay in touch with his attorney and to give him all of the information, names, numbers, contact info of anybody that Naresh wants subpoenaed. So basically any witnesses they would like to call in his defense. Oh my gosh, you guys! This is ridiculous. All right, hold on. I'm very professional over here. Okay, swipe left to close. All right, which one's left? Like, it's not closing. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay, interpreters, because that has been a long-standing issue. Yeah, the hearing was at 9 this morning. It got changed. I think it was originally scheduled for 10. So the interpreter issue has been something that has plagued these proceedings since the very beginning. And Judge Irving, so Naresh's attorney asked about that. He's like, okay, so, what are we going to do about this? And Judge Irving said she is going to speak to the Supreme Court of Virginia to tell them that they, have this need for Nepali interpreters. So, hopefully they're going to get more interpreters to be available for these hearings. So we're not going to continue to have this issue of hearings getting canceled because of not having an interpreter. Okay. That is everything. I swear it took me how long it took me 25 minutes to explain a 15-minute hearing. But anyway, that's where we are. So that's everything that happened today. Hit me with your questions. Is it true DNA came back a month ago? Tina asked. Yes. And that is actually a point of contention that, all right, so you guys know Holly Worth. She's the lady who used to work with Mamta. I think she was Mamta's boss, she's the one who usually leads the press conferences after these trials. She has the short gray hair. She and I were talking yesterday, and she said that yes. Well, we knew Chief Lugo said that the DNA had been back for a month. The part that she was furious about, and I don't blame her, is that Naresh was indicted on December 2nd, like I told you, and Mamta's mother and her whole family found out via Facebook. They found out that Naresh had been charged with murdering Mamta from a Facebook post. The police did not contact them. The Commonwealth's attorney did not contact them. And honestly, it should have been the Commonwealth's attorney, not the police, who contacted her, because they are the ones who brought the charges. So Holly was furious about that, which I absolutely agree with. The other thing that is bullshit, frankly, is, okay, so yes, the DNA came back a month ago. We didn't hear about it because the 2nd, on Monday, that was the next time the grand jury met, because the grand jury meets every so often. They're on a predetermined schedule. So if you have something you want to bring in front of a grand jury, you have to just wait until whenever it is the next time they meet. And that happened to be December 2nd. So they had the DNA for a month. They waited a month to charge him because of the grand jury issue. That makes sense. No problem. Everybody gets that. What they're pissed about is that they had the DNA for a month and didn't tell the family. And now, ostensibly, my guess is the reason would be they didn't want the news to get out. But that's awful that the family found out that the DNA belonged to Mamta and that Naresh was charged through Facebook. That should not have happened. That was definitely a screw up on the part of the Commonwealth's attorney. Okay. So what else do we have? Were her mom and brother there too today? I did see Momta's brother yesterday when we were here for like 5 minutes. I didn't see him today, but he could have been here. I just didn't personally see him. I'm not sure. Momta's mother doesn't really come to these hearings. I think everything's just too difficult for her. So it's typically only her brother who shows up for these. Any relatives for Naresh there for him? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know everybody who was in the court, but I don't believe anybody was there for Naresh. Yes, it looks like, yeah, it's because they had it at the first hearing, so the judge said we needed it all. They're talking about the interpreter. That is why we have to have an interpreter. And again, we've talked about this. The whole issue is that it can cause huge legal issues down the line if they have an interpreter and then don't have an interpreter, because then he can claim that he didn't understand what was going on, and that violates any number of, rights in the Constitution. Okay, where is he staying in trial? What prison? He is in jail. He is not in prison. He is staying at the Adult Detention Center here in Prince William County. Have they tried to contact the Naresh family? I do not know. I would assume so. Why is it so hard to have an interpreter? Because there are only 2 Nepali interpreters for the entire Northern Virginia region. And that is a large region with a lot of court cases. So they are really just stretched extremely thin, unfortunately. Why don't court use interpreter by phone calls? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know what the rules in Prince William are around that. But that has not been an option in any of these hearings. I have not been back to their home. I don't live in Manassas or Prince William County, so this is a little bit of a drive for me. I haven't gone back to the home. I don't believe it's in foreclosure yet, but I've been meaning to kind of dig into that to see what I can find. I would imagine at this point, unless that he's probably just going to let it go into foreclosure, because there's no reason for him not to, frankly. What's he worried about? His credit score? Like, let's get real. Was Momta's family there? Again, it's usually just her brother. I didn't see him today, but he could have very well been there. I'm not sure. Is first degree death penalty or life imprisonment? Virginia has abolished the death penalty, so it is life in prison. Did he confess today for what he did? No, and I mentioned this early on in the recording. I believe that the only way we'll ever get a confession is if he's offered a plea deal, and that is part of the plea deal. What happens to his property? I mean, I would assume his family could go get it. He could appoint like a power of attorney, for instance, and his family could go like empty out the house before it goes into foreclosure. As a realtor, do you think the house would even sell again? Yeah, I do. Because I'm telling you, and I've said this before too, it's like there are so many people out there who have no idea any of this is happening. There are plenty of people who would be like, oh, that's a nice house. And they would buy it, especially if it's at a discount. Like, I truly don't believe they'll have too much trouble selling it, as weird as it is. It's crazy to me his mom hasn't been back in America. I think it's kind of crazy too. I mean, I don't know anything about their family dynamic really, other than kind of what I heard about when they were living here with him and Momta. But like, I am a little surprised that they apparently haven't shown up. Maybe they have. I mean, I don't know. Okay, what about the people living in the basement? Did they not hear anything when he was doing the deed? That's a big question, and I'm sure that these people are going to be called to testify. From what I understand, they worked nights, and based on the theory of the crime, they believe that, so we know Momta was alive until about 8:30, at least, until about 8:30, 8:45 on July 29th, because she spoke with her mother via video call at 8:30 that night. So we know she was alive. We know she was fine. 5-ish a.m., July 30th is when Naresh started like calling the babysitter and dropped Mini Momta off, and started driving around going into dumpsters. So it seems as though the theory of the case is that Momta was killed sometime between 8:45 p.m. on the 29th and like 5 a.m. on the 30th. So if the residents of the basement worked nights, they wouldn't have heard anything. So I don't know if that was the case, if they weren't home, you know, again, I don't know. But based on what I've heard, that would be the most logical explanation. Another possibility is that, what happened to her maybe happened when she was not conscious. And so there wouldn't have been a lot of noise, potentially. And again, that's all speculation. That's just another possible explanation. I don't know. Any update on Mamta's baby? All I know is that she's doing well. She's still with Mamta's mother and brother here in Prince William County. But beyond that, I don't know. Okay, if the body was disposed of in trash bags, how come none of the bags have been found? So we did find one trash bag that contains a bloody bath mat that he dumped in a donation bin instead of a dumpster. We don't know. I mean, it doesn't appear, because they said that her body has not been found. I would believe that would also mean that no parts of her body have been found. But I think it's because, you know, one of the dumpsters that he used was a trash compactor. Some of the trash that is processed is taken from the dumpster and then burned. I just think that it's just the nature of the way trash is handled as to why they haven't found her, unfortunately. And I mentioned this, I think, before. For those of you who have been following me for a while before this case or have listened to my podcast, I have a friend who was murdered in March of 2023, and he was disposed of apparently in a similar way. And because of that, the police told his family that his body would not be able to be recovered. And that's just due to the nature of the way he was disposed of, unfortunately. So, can they see when all that water was being used, or just that there was an increase that day? No, they can. They can break it down. And she didn't go into like a ton of detail, but Sarah Sammy, when she brought that evidence up at a previous hearing, did say it increased between, you know, this certain period of the day, like these couple of hours. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but yes, they can really narrow that down. And that's, yeah, so, you know, and that's another good point, because now you're going to make me want to go back to the notes, because all right, if you're thinking, I'm like, all right, this is real time. This is me kind of walking through it. All right, so if you're thinking she died between the night of the 29th and the 30th, and he started dumping things early in the morning on the 30th, that's before the water spiked. So the dismemberment very well could have happened after that. So maybe he left her in the bathroom, dropped the baby off with the babysitter, started disposing of evidence, and then went back. Yeah, the water could have been for cleanup too. Let me go back. Okay, so yeah, so he was so the first video of him discarding something in a dumpster was 6:44 a.m. on July 30th. And then there are several more instances of the 30th and the 31st. And then the water usage was between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. on July 31st. And 150 gallons of water was consumed in that hour, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on the 31st. Yeah, how did he do it with Walmart knives? I don't think that he could have, honestly. He might have used one for something, but I don't think that was like the primary tool. But he did buy those knives on the 30th, I believe. So on the 30th, he went to Home Depot and bought 2 pairs of rubber gloves, and then went to Walmart to buy the knives. So that was the morning of the 30th. So basically what it seems like is he killed her late night, early morning, 29th through the 30th, sent the baby to the babysitter, started dumping evidence, went to Home Depot, got the gloves, went to Walmart, got the knives, and then was home all morning and picked the baby up at 3:45 p.m. So it seems as though a lot of what he might have been doing to the body happened during the day, between, say, 9 and 3:30. But the water spike was the next day. So that was probably the cleanup, like somebody said. Okay. I wonder if they got into an argument. That is my theory. So my theory is, he came home at around like 1 a.m. on the 29th, and they were home together all day on the 29th. So my theory is that because he was in Baltimore, allegedly with this other woman, that during the day on the 29th, they were probably fighting. And it was something that was probably like, on and off throughout the day, because again, it was the whole day. And she spoke to her mother on the night of the 29th and didn't mention a fight. So it doesn't seem like there was like one big violent fight like in the afternoon or anything. It seems like they were probably fighting on and off all day. And then whatever violent altercation happened, or whatever he did, happened the night of the 29th. All right. So what happened today is is Mandira still in the picture? I have no idea. I do not know. And honestly, I don't really know. I wouldn't be able to pick her out. I don't really remember what she looks like. Why is the FBI not involved in the case? I don't think they would have to be invited in. There's no indication that this is like a federal crime. So there's no real reason for them to get involved. No, I don't believe Nadia's there. I don't think she's ever been to any of the hearings. Will the police still be looking for Momta? So Chief Lugo said that if they get new tips or clues or leads, that they will continue searches. But I think that like they've done as many searches as they can based on the information that they have. Like you said, he was searching, what to do after a spouse dies. So he was planning. Yeah, I think that the case is definitely going to try to prove premeditation based on those searches and other evidence in order to get the first-degree murder charge. So for those of you who are aware, I'm covering another case here in Prince William County, another no-body homicide case. Tim Hickerson is accused of murdering Shane Donahue 14 years ago. It's another no-body case, and he is being charged with second-degree murder, presumably because they don't believe that they can prove premeditation. But in this case, they are confident enough to charge Naresh with first-degree murder. How did they get to charge him with murder? The DNA came back. And the DNA of all the blood found in the bedroom and the bathroom came back. It was shown to be Momta's, and that is what caused them to charge Naresh not only with murder, but with defiling a dead body. And by defiling a dead body, they mean basically cutting her up. Did they get information from the Tesla he sold like GPS? Yes, they were able to get information from the Tesla, and that has been brought up a little bit in the last bond hearing. No, it is first-degree murder that Naresh is charged for. You're welcome. Was the DNA on the bath mat tested? You know, that wasn't said specifically, I don't think, but I would imagine that that was tested with the rest of the DNA. Did I see Mandira today? I don't believe so. I would not necessarily be able to pick Mandira out, though. I don't really remember what she looks like. They have not found Mamta's body, no. Okay. So this all going to happen in PwC court like the trial? Yes. Everything is going to happen at the same courthouse that we've been having all the hearings in. And again, for those of you who just joined, the trial for all 3 charges is going to start on September 8th, 2025. Did I see Naresh at the court? Yes, he was way more emotional today than he has been in other hearings. He really looked shaken, I would say. I think it's finally hitting him. Is it possible to find the body now after all this time? I'm becoming less hopeful, but I'm always going to hope that they are able to find at least part of her. All right, I'm going to have to head to work here soon. So we're going to have to wrap this up. Did they match Mamta's DNA with the baby's DNA? Yes, they did. So I do know that a couple months back, they came to where the baby is staying and did take a cheek swab and test so that they had a sample of the baby's DNA. And I think that is how they were sure that they had Mamta's DNA. Why is Naresh not speaking the truth? Because he's a scared little narcissist who doesn't want to. I don't know. Who has custody of the child right now? Mamta's mother and brother have her. Apparently, I just heard that Mamta's brother is having a baby back in Nepal. So, you know, one big question is that now that everything is being delayed till next fall, what is going to happen with custody and the baby? Is she going to stay? Is she going to Nepal? Like, what is happening? We don't have the answers for any of that yet. There will probably be hearings in family court regarding that. I really do not know. We have no information on that right now. My thoughts, I don't have any more thoughts on Nadia. I mean, whatever's happening with the GoFundMe, it's just completely separate from this. So that's not anything that I'm getting involved in. Been over him in court was, no, he wasn't mad. He was pretty calm and cool. He was like he normally is, you know, very kind of aggrieved on behalf of his client, which is how you want an attorney to be. He was just acting his normal self and doing what he needs to do for his client. So being, you know, very appropriate, I would say. All right. Yeah, I really don't know what's going to happen with the baby. So that's definitely up in the air right now. All right. Any other questions before we wrap this up? And I'll do a recap video later on, like I always do. I don't know about Nadia. The judge didn't say anything else. Basically, you know, it was mainly just scheduling today. And, you know, the big news is that we're not having the trial on December 9th. Everything's getting pushed till September. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. CCTV cameras did capture him disposing of the bags. I did see that. Oh, thank you for the rose. So I'll make a recap video. Remember, as always, if you go to my page, I have over 100 videos, on this case. So, you know, if you're lost on anything, you could go back to some of those. And I'll also be doing an update episode on the podcast now that he has been charged with murder and we're not doing the trial. I'm going to do a podcast episode to get everybody caught up to basically where we are now. So you can expect that in the next week or two. So, all right, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful day. I am heading to work now. So, yeah, If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll make the recap video later. And thank you all for joining and continuing to care about justice for Malta. All right, everybody, have a great one.